I'm not angry. I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed that it couldn't just be celebrated, period. And it made me very sad. And it hurt. It hurt.
Welcome to Hockey and Podcast. With a puck drop. Welcome, everybody, to the latest episode of the Hockey and Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Jay. And with me today, off the injured reserve list, is my co-host, Jennifer, who battled through sickness, loss of voice, all kinds of terrible things. But she's a hockey woman, and you know what hockey players do. They show up. And that's what she's doing today. So, Jennifer, welcome back from the IR list.
Thanks so much. I'm barely here, but I'm sucking it up because that's what we do.
That's right. Suck it up, Buttercup. So, without further ado, let's get into what we're going to be talking about today, Jen.
Okay, doke.
In our hockey segment, we're going to talk about why Hilary Knight is a boss.
Yeah, she is.
So, we'll get into some really cool things about her. And then in our and section, we're going to get into a topic that might cause my wife and I to separate.
Please.
It could be a driving wedge between us.
I'll tell you.
Now, we're going to do what all great shows do, Jen. We're not going to tell anybody what it is.
Okay.
So you're going to have to wait until the second half of this show to find out exactly what is the and topic that my wife and I may split up over. All of that plus much more in today's episode of Hockey and Podcast. So, Jen, kicking things off, Hilary Knight.
Yes.
Hilary Knight, if you people out there don't know by this point, she was a very polarizing figure for women's hockey recently. She was part of the U.S. team that won gold against Canada. She actually scored the game tying goal to put the game into overtime. But we're going to bring out some things as far as why we think she's a boss other than her hockey game or their style of play.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jen, I'll give a little background on what I've got on Hilary Knight, and then we'll get into the conversation. Now, Hilary Knight, again, is an American hockey player who is currently a forward and the captain of the Seattle Torrent of the PWHL. She was also the captain of the United States women's national hockey team. Now, she has been regarded as one of the greatest women hockey players in history. She holds numerous records, and she's been a dominant force in both international play, Jen, as well as professional hockey for almost 2 decades.
And that's crazy to begin with. 2 decades doing this. I think that's amazing. She's amazing. Anywho, go on.
Now, just with the U.S. national team, Hilary Knight has won a total of 10 gold medals in the IIHF World Women's Championship. This is the most ever by any female hockey player.
Any hockey player.
Any hockey player. And she holds the tournament records for such things as total goals, assists, and points. So as a player, Jen, her resume speaks for itself right now. She's kind of proven that her play, she's a boss. Add to it, she's also a 5-time Olympic medalist, winning gold in 2018 and recently in 2026. She also has won silver with the U.S. women's national team in 2010, 2014, 2022, and in 2023, she became the first player in IIHF World Women's Championship hockey history to surpass 100 career points, and she was named the recipient of the Female Player of the Year award. She's also earned multiple tournament MVP honors, including the 2015 and 2016 World Championships, where she was also the leading scorer of that tournament. So let's stop there, Jen. And as a woman, which
Mhm.
you are a woman, what do you think about, and you love hockey too. So talk to me about this woman and her hockey attributes.
I mean, pretty much every year she has shown up at the Olympics and won some kind of medal. So I think that stands on its own all by itself. Then I was looking up the IIHF and I cannot figure out what does that even stand for? International Ice Hockey Federation. So the IIHF is International Ice Hockey Federation. So it's not just the United States. So she's pretty much bomb as far as I'm concerned.
Now, that's on the international stage.
Mhm.
So she showed up in all the big tournaments,
Yes.
especially when you think about the Olympics. Now, the Olympics is the best of the best when it comes to that tournament. We saw it on the men's side. Canada's got an amazing team. Chechnya has an amazing team. Finland has a great team. So to be considered one of the best in Olympic hockey history, leading in goals and assists and points, I would say that's impressive.
It really is. And honestly, I didn't even know about her, to be honest, before the Olympics. And it's really what has made her stand out so much to me is not so much her on ice. I mean, it is, but her off ice presence has been amazing too. And I just really, really wish she was still, with Boston Fleet. I want to get one of those jerseys with her name on it. Cause I have been saying for a while about the PWA uh, HL that no, I'm wishy washy about it because of how it's slower than the men's and everything. But after seeing what they did on the Olympic Forum, I'm totally blown away. So yeah, I wanna start going to some PWHL games.
She's had a very interesting professional hockey career to go along with her international play. As you mentioned, she started with the Boston Pride. She actually won the inaugural Isabel Cup with the Boston Pride in the NWHL in 2016. So this is right before the PWHL.
Hmm.
And in 2016, she has been a scoring leader across multiple leagues. So we talked about international. She's a scoring leader. In the NWHL, she was a scoring leader with the Boston Blades as well as the Montreal team of the CWHL. Now let's move ahead into the PWHL, where she played for the Boston Fleet. And in the 2024-25 season, she tied for the league lead with 29 points. Again, there was an early, first season, so they didn't play a lot of games. 29 points is a lot,
That is.
earning her the Points Leader Award. And she was named a finalist for the Forward of the Year, as well as the Billie Jean King MVP Award for the PWHL. Hillary Knight has served as captain for both teams, USA and Boston Fleet, before becoming the first player and captain of the new expansion Seattle Torrent that she's currently on back in 25. Now, before we get into the main topic or the main meat of our subject, beyond her on ice achievements, Knight has been a leading advocate for equality and sustainability in women's professional hockey, playing a key role in the formation of the PWHL Players Association. And she's also received 3 USA Hockey Bob Allen Women Player of the Year awards in 2014, 2022, and 2025. And check this out. She was named to Forbes 30 under 30 list in 2018.
I mean, come on.
This girl is a boss just based off of that information. So she has an unbelievable hockey career. She's won gold medals. She's won championships in the professional league. She was a college star and standout, and she's helped develop women's hockey, I would say, from square one when it's come to the formation of the leagues the Players Association. I mean, when you're getting recognized by Forbes,
Yes.
that's a pretty impressive thing, especially for a hockey player.
Nothing to sneeze at. I'm wondering if everything surrounding the Olympics and the PWHL, I'm wondering if it's just gonna, shoot the women's teams into the stratosphere. I hope this takes off. It would be really awesome to see more teams being developed. I would love that. Love that.
Let's talk about that for a minute. So the women's professional league is growing, but it's growing slowly.
Right.
Now, do you think that with Olympic gold medal and the outstanding games that we saw both with the US hockey team, the Canadian women's hockey team, and some other different nations, does this then help propel the PWHL, in your opinion, to be more mainstream, more recognizable, draw in maybe some other hockey fans who, like yourself, wasn't really following them before?
Yeah, I mean, I would hope so. Because if you're looking for a quality game, it definitely was that. And it's not like they're just the top players either, like we had the men's teams and they were all the top players from the NHL. These are all the players. So you're gonna have those fast-paced games or faster-paced games regardless of who shows up because, or who it's against because they're all top tier.
Do you feel, though, that for any sports team to be recognizable by the public, you have to have polarizing figures? So
Yes.
if we talk men's hockey, NHL, right?
Yeah,
Go down the list,
right, there's a
right?
whole
There's
bunch.
a list that you could probably pick one person, maybe multiple people off each team that a lot of people understand and know. Now, again, hockey is let's call it what it is, the redheaded stepchild of sports. It's not highly recognized, when you talk about football, or when you talk about baseball or basketball, or heck, even soccer. It's down there. But the people that understand hockey, they're passionate fans. They latch on to a team, to a player, and they definitely will support them, especially teams. Players may come and go, not as much as some sports, but it does happen. Is Hillary Knight, I guess you could say, the most polarizing figure, in your opinion, for women's hockey right now?
At this point, I would say yes, without a doubt, because I mean, I consider myself a pretty decent fan of the NHL. Again, I
You're a newer fan.
shut it. I hate that. You can't see him cheesing over here. He's just smiling like crazy. He knows he gets under my skin. But as far as the other players, other female players, I don't know them. I'll be quite honest. I have no idea who they are. So she is the face of it right now. And I think it's a great face. I think she holds herself really well. And I would like to think that the women that are now being pulled into the NHL as far as watching, enjoying, really understanding the game, I would like to think that us women would support the women's teams. And, it's still, for me, it's still pretty new. I mean, I have not been paying attention, but now I am. And it's because of the Olympics. So I'm hoping that maybe this is something that'll catch on. I think that she's got enough of a I don't want to say a following, but she's got enough of a face. She's got enough celebrity at this point to bring some more people, get some more attention to the sport in the women's league.
If you don't know, the PWHL, right after the Olympics, did what they call is a takeover for a lot of their games. What that means is they don't usually play in NHL arenas. They typically play in college arenas or smaller arenas just
Mhm.
because of the fact that they just don't have the draw yet.
Yep.
But they, from time to time, do get to play in the NHL arenas. For instance, the Fleet are playing at the Boston TD Garden.
And how are the tickets? How have the tickets done?
I'll let you answer that. How have the tickets done for that game?
I heard, I heard that they sold out. I mean, they sold out TD Garden. That is not a small thing. So this could be something. This could be something. I will be so stoked. So stoked. I mean, the Huskies took over basketball in Connecticut, the women's team. I mean, they are by far the best basketball team in Connecticut, at least. And I mean, hey, if that can happen here too, wow, that would be that would be just amazing.
You're talking about selling out an arena that's over 18,000 seats. I mean, 18,000 for a PWHL game, that's great news. That's great news.
It is.
I
They've
hope
they've
that
got to be they've got to be stoked. They must be absolutely stoked to say, "What? We sold out?" I mean, that it's impressive.
now the other key part of this is once the Olympics are over, and what usually happens is all the talk shows, all the media, they want to talk to gold medalists. So for the men, it seemed like Jack Hughes and his brother Quinn Hughes were on that tour. And on top of that, Hillary Knight was one of the female hockey players that showed up to Jimmy Kimmel and all the other shows. And here's what I really respected about her on that show. And then we'll get into why we really think she's a boss and respect her is the way she conducted herself.
Yes.
She was sitting with the Hughes brothers. And you know what? In my mind, I wasn't looking at men and women hockey players. I was watching that screen. I was just seeing hockey players.
Yes.
So Hillary Knight, as we said, based off of her playing career, is a boss. She's proven that. Now, the one thing I do want to kind of say that I feel bad for her about is this. This is her last year in the PWHL. I believe she's retiring after this year. Unfortunately, we don't get to see this figure in that limelight that the PWHL and women's hockey is really starting to garnish. I wish we've got the 22, 23-year-old version now
Yeah.
with that, what she was able to accomplish. I think she could have taken that, league and women's hockey into the stratosphere.
Well, she's 36 now, so in hockey, we know that that's getting toward that, that pinnacle where you're gonna
You're
start
in the
climbing down.
prime.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. That's it.
Yeah.
So
But the good thing, let's talk about this factor. Her inspiration to other young women to either pick up the game, to play it, or just to follow it as a fan, like you.
yeah.
It's drawn new interest. So speak to how, even though we're losing her as a player, how is her presence now and in the future going to help this game grow?
Well, you know very well that she's not gonna be out of the spotlight. She's gonna stick around. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they've even said what she plans on doing in the future. She hasn't even spoken to that yet, I don't think. But she's not going anywhere. So, and I think that there's a lot of young girls that are totally enamored with the sport of hockey now because of watching this. The little girls who are they're in the minor leagues now. They're looking at it and they're like, I can do that. And I mean, who better of a spokesperson than her? So I figure she'll be around for a long time.
I think she inspires young women, especially now.
I think she inspires women in general, regardless of how old they are, because I mean, look at what she's done as well as what the teams have done. And, you know, I know that we talk a lot about, we make fun of this, that, and the other thing, but women now, as far as hockey is concerned, there's been a lot of adversity. And so the fact that they are getting the kind of recognition that they're getting now, bomb. I am so thrilled for them. So thrilled.
I'm with you because I have watched the PWHL,
Hmm.
and I have to say that it's interesting to me. It's an interesting game. There's a lot of talent out there. Yes, it's a different game from the NHL.
Right.
That's understood, but it's still very entertaining. So I think the PWHL has a real strong future ahead of it. The other thing that I love personally, and I'm an old man, I don't, look at a lot of social media stuff, but the algorithm knows that you like hockey. It'll show you a lot of hockey stuff. And one of the things that I've noticed is there's a lot of young female hockey players putting themselves out there on social media, whether it be from the college ranks, maybe high school ranks. And what I'm starting to see are these women, regardless of their age, playing hockey in a very different way than maybe even some of the, people before them have done. They're training differently.
Mhm.
They're accepting the fact that, look, we're women in this, but we can do better. We can be stronger. We can be faster. We can make the game better. And that's a
Yeah,
great thing.
the
That's
skill.
what the NHL is going through now
Right.
with the youth movement. When you look at young people like Macklin Celebrini, right? These are young kids who are starting to dominate in the NHL in their teens or early 20s. And I think that's what's going to happen in the women's game in the very near future. It's happening now, but I think you're going to get an influx of just these young
Yeah.
superstar talents in their late teens to early 20s that are going to be very similar to a Hillary Knight because that's who they watched when they were, say, a young teenager. So I think the PWHL has a bright future ahead of it, especially if the US and Canada, if they keep developing these young people all over the world, I should say, because when you can show up on a big platform like the Olympics and perform like they did and have
Yeah.
games like they did, that's what draws people in. That's what keeps them interested. That's where I'm sure in that US Canada final, there was a lot of people, hockey fans, regardless men or women, who watched that exciting game.
And we were talking about how they have a there it's a bit of a slower game, but the skill is there. So if you can get used to it just being just a touch slower, then I mean, and I don't really know why it's a little bit slower. It's probably just because they're not as tall. I mean, that's probably just the basics of it. But the skill, the skill is there. And that is another thing in watching the games, the Olympic Games that I noticed that I mean, they're toe to toe. So that really made me really proud because like I said, in the past, I've been a little more critical of it because it's a slower game, and when it comes to watching these games, I'm kind of like a adrenaline junkie. I want to see fast, fast, fast. But when you slow it down a little bit, you could see the skill level, and that is actually blowing me away. So I'm really looking forward to seeing where they're going. But her off ice attitude, her off ice interviews, they've been right on as well.
All right. Sounds like you want to transition into the big topic now when it comes to Hillary Knight. Unfortunately, good people out there listening, if you don't know this, women as a whole have a huge mountain they must climb even in 2026, unfortunately, when it comes to respect. Would you agree with that, Jen? Being a woman.
Yeah, absolutely. Every day, day in, day out. We can't put who we are aside. We can't hide it in any way, shape, or form. And we are a type of minority. Women are also a minority. So yeah, when it comes to your white men leading everything, they have the power. The women don't really have the same kind of power that men do. So yeah, we've been battling uphill quite a bit for quite a long time.
So Hillary Knight was confronted with, I guess you could say, exactly what you were saying. Now,
Hmm.
the women's hockey team comes off a glorious victory, wins gold. They're celebrating wherever they're celebrating. And then the men proceed to come out and do the same thing. They win gold in overtime against the
Awesome.
Canadian, right? Another great accomplishment.
Amazing. Yes.
So the men are celebrating over there in Italy in their locker room, and the phone rings. And that happens. That typically happens. The phone rings from someone important over in the United States,
Sure.
where the thought is they want to congratulate.
Of
Hey, you
course.
won gold. Congratulations from the top people, and people exactly who I'm talking about, so we don't have to dredge that whole thing up. So that phone call comes in, and we heard and saw video and audio about that phone call. What happens is, as the call is going on, the men's team is invited by this individual to go to a very special place in the US once they get home. You see how I'm kind of skirting
Yes.
around this because
Yes.
I'm not a
It's
political
political.
person. My wife's not a political person. We're
Absolutely.
very neutral when it comes to this stuff. So we don't want to get into, who and what and where and all that. But phone call comes in. Men are basically told, hey, we need you to come to this very special place. And oh, by the way, we'll probably have to invite the women because if this person who said this, what he said was, if we don't, I'm basically going to get in trouble or people are going to talk,
Yeah.
against me,
Right.
making a joke of it.
The fact that they have to bring the women
Right.
along.
Or I'm going to get in trouble in
Right.
2026.
Yeah.
Now, some of you heard some of the men chuckled and some laughed. There were a couple in the background that said, 2 for 2. Let's basically now we need
Absolutely.
women to come.
Yeah.
Okay, that happens. Now, here's the next funny part that happens. In 2026, unfortunately, the media wants to dredge up any kind of controversy. They want you to speak towards it. So when something happens, they want immediate reaction. They want you mad. They want you to yell and scream. They want you to come across and be offended and all this stuff.
And you want to know, let me just I got to step up on this for a couple of moments. Now, the whole reason why we didn't do this last week is because I was sick. And so we are late in talking about this, but I really wanted to be able to talk about this. So that's why we're doing it now because I'm here. I will say, and you saw it firsthand, I didn't get angry. I started crying. And I started crying because they worked so hard. And it's actually really emotional for me, even right now, because they worked just as hard, and they had to make their way without the kind of help that the men's team gets. They get snubbed. And it's just so hurtful. I'm not angry. I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed that it couldn't just be celebrated, period. And it made me very sad and it hurt. It hurt. So take it from there, Jay.
It was an event. It's
Yeah.
the Olympics. These are athletes, some of them who train their whole life to do this. Unfortunately, we get pulled into a lot of the times the Olympics ends up being a political event, if you would. You recall 1980, right? US versus the Russians. That was more about the political kind of turmoil that was going on. And now you kind of let it bleed over into a hockey game. Well, unfortunately, in 2026, it's not country versus country. Unfortunately, now we're talking about man and woman
Oh yeah, and party versus party.
and party versus party. And again, doesn't matter what you believe. We let it bleed over into a wonderful sporting event that you ask any one of those women or any one of those men, yes, they're playing for Team USA, Team Canada. They're there to win a gold medal and to,
Right.
represent their country and be
Yes.
proud of the fact that, hey, our team won a gold medal for this country. And the important people in the country that won the gold medal for are digging them or making fun of them. And that's for me where it's insulting. And I'm a white man and I totally agree with what you're saying. But why do we have to turn this beautiful event into, again, something just to tear someone else down just because we feel like, hey, I'm going to get a laugh. I'm going to draw some
That's
more
what it
attention
is.
to myself.
That's what it is. It's for far, far, far too long. Women have been the butt of so many jokes. It's constant. It's constant. It doesn't ever end. So one of my favorite authors just came out and just said she's releasing 2 books. And now all I'm hearing is all about putting for some reason, women who write books that happen to be sci-fi or fantasy, they're put into a category that men are not put into. When a man writes a fantasy or a sci-fi book, it's a fantasy or sci-fi book. When a woman writes it, and both men and male and female writers put some sexuality in their books. That's the way the world is. That's part of life. But for some reason, when women write it, it's considered smut, and the whole book is labeled smut. When in reality, less than 3% of the book has anything like that in it. And so, like I say, we as women are joked about. We're not taken seriously. And that's what I felt with all of this. They worked just as hard, but their accomplishments were secondary, and they shouldn't have been. They should have been equal. And again, with the guys, they laughed and things, and at first I was hurt by that too, but then I realized the reality of the situation. I'm sure it would have been really awkward for somebody to say, "Well, no, da 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 da." They tried to be all inclusive, but it was at the very last moment. It's very hard to come up with something to say at that in that situation. So, but I digress. They did talk about it afterward, and it sounds as though the guys have a lot of respect for the women. But I just wish that it hadn't been brought up, hadn't become an issue to begin with. It shouldn't have been.
We live in a world now in 2026 where I would say things are brought more to the limelight, are brought out into the light. So how women have been treated, it has grown, not to where it needs to be, but it has grown. In that scenario, one of the things that I'll be perfectly honest with you, as a male growing up, if I was a young in my teens and 20s, in that situation, what usually happens is if something's said or someone's joking about someone else, typically, if you're part of that, and again, as a young person, you don't want to stand out as the person who's different.
Right.
You kind of chuckle along because your thought is, well, I don't now want to be the target of them. And I think that was part of it. I think the other part of it was who the individual was on the phone, that maybe they just didn't want to talk against that. That's another thing. And finally, the third thing is, hey, look, if you truly believe that, I mean, unfortunately, we do live in a land where you do have the ability to have those feelings. Not saying it's right, but you do. But like you said, it just comes down to one thing: respect for one another. Doesn't matter if you're a man, a woman, what race you are, ethnicity you are. It's just we're human beings. We all need to respect one another. At least now in 2026, when stuff like this happens, people now don't necessarily feel the need to keep it to themselves. There are a lot of people who will speak out against that. As you mentioned, when this happened, you heard right in that initial video, there were people in the background trying to turn that conversation around to bring the
Well,
women.
because they were, obviously the guys were obviously really excited that 2 for 2, they're bringing home 2 for 2. I mean, that is freaking cool. Both hockey teams bringing home gold. That's awesome. So you could hear the excitement in when they first started talking. You could hear how excited they were. And then it kind of got a little weird, but.
And you heard male players shortly thereafter come out and say, I didn't say anything then, but I'm saying it now. We were wrong. We should have said something. But for all the reasons I mentioned, sometimes you don't want to be the first one in front of the firing line to say, hey, no, this isn't okay that we talk about this. Again, maybe it was the excitement factor, but you also have to, build into that unfortunately there are what I like to call mouth breathers that roam amongst us who just don't have the mental capability to have compassion for other people who don't fit inside their tight little minuscule world of what they think the world should be. So unfortunately, those people are there. And hey, you know what? They're allowed to be there and have those thoughts. But at the same time, just ask yourself, and this is where I want to end this point before we get into really then the best part of this story is
Yes.
everybody out there has a mother, has a sister, has, a sister-in-law, a niece,
Wife, child,
wife. Let's go down the
daughter.
list.
I mean,
If that was any one of those, how would you feel at that moment when someone said that about the fact that your daughter just won gold medal for the U.S. hockey team and people are making jokes about them?
yeah. But you know what? I don't think that it's something that a man can understand. Just as though, we can't understand what other minorities go through, how they feel. We can empathize as much as we possibly can, but we're not there. We're not them. There's no way for us to know how crushing it is, and it's the same thing with men. I mean, there's no way that men can understand how it feels to be in this spot, to be a joke to everyone else, and to a lot of women as well. It's not just men, because there are a lot of misogynistic women out there, and they have taken their cues from the men, and they have not stood up for themselves, and that's sad. I find that to be really sad too. But I think that you can empathize as much as humanly possible, but at the end of the day, you really don't know how it feels because you're not in their skin.
And if that's the case, if you don't know how they feel, and like you said, maybe you can't relate, then you know what I think we need to do as a society? How about we keep our mouths shut and listen a little bit more? And then this way we can have conversations. Because today, really, all we're doing with each other is yelling at each other.
Yeah.
If you have a point that I don't agree with, I'm just going to yell at you and I'm going to
Till you
keep
give up.
diverting around the point until I just go, you know what? This is a waste of my time. So
Mhm.
I think we just need to keep our mouth shut, especially on things when it comes to breaking down somebody else just to build ourselves up. There's the old saying that says, if you ever wonder who the dumbest person in the room is, it's just wait a minute and they'll talk and let you know. So maybe we just be quiet every so often. Maybe we have the conversation or we just have respect for one another. We all have different beliefs. We all grew up differently. You know what? We can't all fit into that perfect little box that a lot of these people want to put the world into. There's a lot of variety in the world. Variety is what makes life interesting. So
It's
I
the
know
spice of life.
the spice of life. I've ranted long enough, Jen. Now I want to get into why Hillary Knight is the boss of all boss, you know what.
Yeah.
Okay. So all of this happened.
Yes.
And with her being the captain of the women's team, of course, every media outlet wants to get a reaction. They're hoping it's something spicy. Again, come out firing. And guess what? Hillary Knight did exactly what I think she should have done. And I think she deserves all the praise in the world. So, what I'd like to do is just read to you, Jen, what the statement was when she went on ESPN Sports Center and was confronted with the question about what do you think about those comments and the reaction that followed. And here's what she said, and I quote, "I thought it was sort of a distasteful joke. And unfortunately, this is overshadowing a lot of the success of just women at the Olympics carrying Team USA banner and having amazing gold medal feats." Now, that was the first thing she said. So what she's basically saying is women as a whole came through for the country, won gold, not just the hockey team, other ones. Kind of takes a little bit away from that. Then she goes on to say, Now I have to sit here in front of you all and explain someone else's behavior, and it's not my responsibility to do so.
It's absolutely not.
I think that's wonderful. Next, she goes on to say, I think this is a really good learning point to focus on how we talk about women, not only in sport, but in industry. And she closes out by saying, women aren't less than. Our achievements shouldn't be overshadowed by anything else other than how great they, meaning women, are. All right. If I could, I would hit the applause button right now and say, good for you, Hillary Knight, from this aspect, and then I'll let you jump in. You didn't sink to the level that a lot of people were hoping you would. In other words, when people make or do dumb things, a lot of the times they just want to draw you down into the mud with them. And she didn't do that. She threw up what I consider the most respectful answer while getting her point across that you could possibly bring out. And I love the fact that she made the point that, hey, when somebody says something dumb, you want me now to have to sit in front of you and explain why they said that? Why don't you go ask them? Is basically what she's saying. So applause, applause, applause. Hillary Knight, I'm just going to say this. I have nothing but respect for how you play the game of hockey. And now I have tremendous amounts of respect when it comes to you as a person and how you handle yourself in difficult situations.
Yeah. Actually, as you were reading all of that, her words, I got emotional again because it's a ridiculous. It's just ridiculous that that she even has to say this. Why does she have to say women are not less than? It's so sad. And I give her, and that is why I wish she was still on the fleet. And I wish I could go back and support with her on the team. But from here forward, I will be supporting the PWHL because I think that they are amazing. I'm so proud. And to be quite honest, I am really, really stoked and so proud to be a woman because I'm emotional. I'm able to handle my emotions like an adult. I can see the bad, I can see the good, and then I can do what I need to do to get my point across through that. This is what she did. Oh, I know she was emotional about it. There's no way that she couldn't be emotional about it. But she got her point across. And then mic drop. She didn't need to say much more than that. She said it all in just those few sentences.
Mic drop's the perfect word for that. I agree with you. Imagine if she went the other way, it would, I believe, tarnish what they
What?
accomplished.
Yeah,
In a weird way, how the men handled themselves, I think tarnished their medal a
it
little.
did. It
Whereas what she did and the rest of the women, I think elevated.
I agree.
I think it's sad that we had, like I said before, because of the misogyny that happens in our society nowadays, that we men have to feel that insecure to break women down for whatever the reason is to make ourselves feel better. So I'm just going to say this as a man out there, you don't need to break down a woman, but you know what makes you a real man? Instead of breaking her down, supporting her, building her up.
Yeah.
Be kind, support, offer words of encouragement rather than words of joking around just because, for like what happened to the situation. Build them up. And guess what? When that happens, your life gets better. Women look at you with more respect and they don't look at you as one of these typical creeps out there. Imagine if you're sitting in a restaurant and someone comes over and says something degrading to your wife or to your daughter or your sister. I think majority of the men out there, when that happens, would stand up and defend. Like if you recall, a young Gavin McKenna did. Applause, applause. You want to talk about his mother? You're going to get knocked the bleep out. I think that's what needs to happen nowadays is let's stop breaking down women. Let's start building them up. And when this happens, like it did on that phone call, strong men will come to the forefront and stand up for women, especially when they're being degraded like that or broken down just for the sheer joke of it all. So
Yeah.
be a man, stand up for what you believe, and don't just cower behind because you don't want to be the one person that disagrees in the locker room, quote unquote. Be a real man is what I'm basically getting to. Because at the end of all of this, I would say Hillary Knight is more of a man than a lot of people who didn't step forward and stand up.
You don't have to be a man to be the kind of person you should be. You know what I'm saying? And going along with that, you know how we always say that they're not men, they're boys. Well, no, they're men. They're men. They're adults. They're not children. They really should behave better, but they don't because they don't. Either they're uneducated or they just don't care enough. And either way, it's sad. But like we say, she was awesome. She handled it great. The men's team were amazing. The women's team, amazing. I give all of them, all the Olympic gold medalists, I give them all so much credit. That's a lot of work. This is stuff they devote their lives to. And they went over there and they showed up. It was amazing. I'm just proud. Just proud.
They showed up. Hillary Knight showed up in more ways than one. So why, to summarize, is Hillary Knight a boss in our eyes and should be in yours? She's an amazing hockey player,
Yep.
starting from the college level, going up into the very young professional women's league when it first started, till the point to where it got to the PWHL level, where she was amazing there. We already talked about international play. She is, let's call her what she is, the greatest player in women's history as of right now, statistically, when it comes to a lot of different areas. And then goes on to win gold this year against a very difficult Canadian women's hockey team,
Yes, she did.
to only be faced with an obstacle that could have potentially tarnished their great accomplishments. And instead, she goes out, takes the high road, building up what I would say, again, is women as a whole, the women's hockey league, and women's athletes overall. And she does it professional, does it in a respectful way,
Mhm.
to the point to where I don't think anybody can look at any of her statements that she made after that. I think she said it perfectly. So this is why we have Hillary Knight. We're going to hang her jersey in the Hockey and Podcast studio rafters. As you know it, when you hang someone's jersey, right? Means one of the
Go.
greats of all time.
Yep.
She will be the first jersey that we hang in our studio's rafters because of the now, I want to say, not new respect I have. I always had respect for her as a hockey player, but as a human being, this just put her over the edge. And I want to applaud her, and I want to make sure that other people are aware that this is a great individual. So if you don't know the Hillary Knight story or you haven't seen her play, go check her out, read about her, because these are the role models that, young women need, as well as human beings in general.
Heard that.
Jen, when it comes to role models in the world and them doing great things, you know who's doing that right now?
This.
Well, it's the sponsor of this podcast. It is My Card Post. My Card Post, if you're unaware, and if you've listened to all our episodes, you should be aware of what this is. It's basically a website you can go on and you can buy and sell sports cards. You can buy and sell memorabilia, TCG cards like Pokemon and One Piece. Jen, you might be asking yourself, how does an old man know about Pokemon and One Piece? Well, it's because of My Card Post. I've learned different types of sets and different types of cards that I could potentially collect from My Card Post.
I heard a rumor that you could trade too.
That's right. Just like Bananarama said in their song back in the day, I heard a rumor too that you can trade on my card post, and that rumor is true. They have the function for you to trade between individuals as well, safely and securely. You would think, like the other big platforms, that this website takes a lot of your money because, hey, that's just what these sites do. Well, guess what? You sell a card on my card post, and you don't have to give up any of your money. Now, the only thing that they ask for is sign up for a monthly subscription, which allows you to sell more cards. And once you do that, you get to keep all your money.
So you mean if you sell a couple $1,000 worth of cards in a month, you're still only paying that subscription fee? That's it?
Yes, which is for most tiers under $20 a month. So if you're selling thousands of dollars of cards on the big platforms, they're taking away at the end of the day a few hundred of your hard-earned dollars. Now, you get to put this stuff on there for free, kind of. They do charge you for some weird stuff. My card post, very transparent. He just says to you, sign up for the subscription. You get to keep all your money. That's it. No fine print. That is how the cookie crumbles. So, if you are in the trading card world, which I know a lot of people are, in 2026, there's a lot of us old men who are doing this for investment. There are a lot of kids out there making multi-million-dollar deals in the sports card world. If you're those people, I highly recommend you go check out my card post, because at the end, you're going to save a lot of money. You're going to have a wonderful experience. And oh, by the way, you may be able to make a deal with me, who is on my card post quite regularly. So go check out my card post. Go sign up for a subscription so you can start saving big bucks. All right, Jem. Unfortunately, we've reached the and part of the show. And this is going to be the part of the show where our marriage potentially falls apart.
Oh, stop it.
Now, many of you who, if you listen to the intro of this, we didn't tell you what the topic is because it's just so polarizing that we're about to get into it. So here we go. Our topic today is we watched the Neil Diamond inspired movie called
Song Sung Blue with Hugh Jackman and Kate Hudson.
So let's just go over the quick premise of the movie. The premise is Hugh Jackman is a performer. He's a singer. He loves to sing. He loves to perform, but he's trying to find his niche. Can't quite find it. He then meets up with Kate Hudson, who's basically doing the same thing. Hey, I don't know what I want to do.
But she's doing Patsy Cline.
Right. They're basically doing that. They're in cover bands. They can't really get things going. They know they both are passionate about music, and they want to make music their main source of income, to live off of it. The idea gets hatched that, hey, Hugh Jackman, or his character, you kind of look like Neil Diamond. So why don't you go down that route? And that's basically what this movie turns into, is he goes in, creates a Neil Diamond experience with this woman that we talked about, and the story proceeds from there. But we're not here to talk about the movie, which, by the way, before I forget, was based on a true story.
Which it was really a wild story. It was based on Mike and Claire Sardina, and they had some crazy, crazy, crazy life. So if you guys want to watch something that is, I mean, I'll say within the first 20 minutes or so, I was like, "Oh, what is happening here?" It was like, okay, this is boring. And then it took a left turn, and I was like, what just happened? Yeah. So it is definitely a good watch. So we will not ruin it for anybody, but definitely a good watch. It's not as, what's his name? Neil Diamond. Not as, it's not as Neil Diamond forward as you would think. It's not like it's about Neil Diamond. It's about this couple, about Mike and Claire Sardina, and it really was it was well written, and it's true. As we were watching it, I was looking all these things up to see exactly how things happened, and everything that was in there pretty much is as close to real life as it gets. But Jay's issue, of course, is not with the movie.
Before I get into that, I will say I acknowledge you are 100% right. You're going to get to certain points in this movie where you're literally going to just yell at the screen. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And the things you will be yelling at really did happen to them in real life. So I'll leave you with that. Now on to the issue. While we're watching this movie, my wife makes the statement, and I don't want to paraphrase this in any way, shape, or form. I'm going to allow my wife to say what she said to me on the couch while this movie is going on. So, Jen, what did you say to me that is potentially leading to our marriage demise?
Okay, I gotta preface this with the thought here that I think that he is an amazing showman. I think he is his songs are fantastic, but for the life of me, Neil Diamond just creeps me out. It's gross. It's gross. He just gross. Just- I can't. It's just no. I
Why is he gross to you?
Because I don't know if he always has done this, but he gets into these songs and the way that he's singing them, and then he'll, like, in his shows, he, like, lays down on the stage and the women come up and he's singing to the women and he starts making out with them. It's just ick. He just gives me the ick.
And here's my rebuttal to that. My issue with that statement is this. Now, we're going to get into Neil Diamond's amazing career in a second, but your ick factor, if you would. So you have a problem, just so I'm clear, with the fact that he engages with his female audience where he'll go down to the stage and the women will come up and he'll sing to them, kind of, woo them a little bit. And then he proceeds to kiss them.
No, but he's not just kissing them. It's not just a kiss. It's like open mouth. It's just disgusting. No.
And is that because of the way he looks that he grosses you out, or it's just the act itself?
It's all of it. It's all of it put together. It's just there. I have never, ever found anything about Neil Diamond to be sexy. I love his music, but there is no attraction whatsoever. Like none, zero. It's in the negatives. No, no, nope.
Okay. Okay. Let me ask you this question. You grew up in the 80s.
Yes, of course.
Okay. You recall there was a lot of, let's call it what it was in the 80s. The lead men or the bands had a very sexual overtone to them. Would you not agree with that?
I would agree with that completely.
So then do you have the same problem with, say, a 20-year-old Sebastian Bach who would do something like that? A
Making out with
20-something-year-old Axl Rose who may have done something like, because
yes,
we do see. So you have a problem with the whole act.
that's
So it's not just the
me.
fact that it's Neil Diamond and his weird haircut, because this has been going on forever, right? You recall the crooners back in the day did it. He
Making
just
out like that? I mean, you can tell he's got his mouth open. There's tongues involved. Yuck. Ugh. It's just gross. And he's married. He's been married 3 times, but he's married.
Hey, that's true. But let me ask you this. Is he forcing himself upon these women, or are they doing that naturally? Answer the question. In a court of law, you have to answer the question that's asked.
What do you think we're on SVU? Come on.
We might be, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's just ick. Yes, I understand the women are up there. They are allowing themselves to be kissed and whatnot. And they probably, if they're allowing themselves to be kissed, they're thinking that he's attractive in some way, shape, or form. I personally, ew. But I feel like that about anybody who's ew. I don't want, well, first of all, I don't want to kiss anybody other than you. So there's that. So that whole idea of ew just is across the board for me as far as anybody other than you. But
Well, I'm gorgeous, so I mean.
I mean, but it is one of those things where it's just, ugh.
Okay. Let me ask it this way then. You ready for this?
No.
And I'm going to pose this in two different scenarios so maybe it'll drive the point home. I want you to think as yourself as young, single Jennifer back in the day, right? You go to one of these two shows and this happens, and you tell me, okay, you ready? And it's going to be the same scenario, just with two different people. You go to a show and you're in the front row, and one of these two singers proceeds to notice you, starts singing to you, maybe, calls you over to the edge of the stage. And those singers are Richard Marx and Rob Thomas. If that happens to you and young Jennifer's there, is she not a little enamored by those? Because those were two of your big
Enamored. Yes, absolutely enamored. Am I going to allow anybody to kiss me like that? Even single? You know who I am, right? You know you've known me since I was 20. Yeah, no, I'm just not built like that. It's just, ew. The idea of kissing somebody that I just met, first of all, is disgusting to me. It's gross. There's got to be something else there. And no, ick. Nope. And then all I would think about, okay, you're talking Rob Thomas. All I could think about was Marisol, his wife, his gorgeous wife.
If he was single, is where I was.
No, ew. No, ew. No. I just think
Okay.
it's gross. It's the one night stand type of thing. And even if it's just a kiss, yuck.
Okay.
It's just me.
Okay. So I think you've
Neil Diamond, a Neil Diamond overall. Ew, ew. It's just ew. It's just no. There's nothing sexy about him.
So Rob Thomas might be able to get away with it. Neil
Absolutely
Diamond
not.
definitely can.
God, Neil Diamond tries pulling me over. I'll be like, no thanks, but I'll pass. Yeah, no, no.
Okay.
No.
Can you separate the gross thing that you have, that you said about Neil Diamond from his music, though?
Absolutely. I have playlists that have his music on. And in the car, I'm singing those songs the loudest of all of them. Because he's a great musician. I mean, his songs are amazing. I can't take that away from him at all. I just am not built that way. Yeah.
What's
No.
your favorite Neil Diamond song?
Probably Forever in Blue Jeans.
Great song.
I mean, it's a great tune.
I mean, he did write what many would consider the anthem of, say, Boston. I know a lot of teams and cities kind of try to adopt it as their own, but we all know when it comes right down to it, the song "Sweet Caroline" is a Boston staple that's played at every Boston sporting event.
Oh.
All four of them.
Yeah. Now, okay. So take that, and I'll give you the growth factor. The growth factor is that Neil Diamond saw Caroline Kennedy as a 9-year-old, and thought of that song. And then, of course, they say he applied it to his then wife, but still, he got the idea of that song. I mean, look at the words. 9 years old. 9 years old. 9. Icky. It's just yuck. No.
I want to give you a little bit of background on that. I wanted to research that. So here's what I found when it came to that song, when it came to Sweet Caroline. I'll just read what it says. It's easier. It says, some of the best songs ever written take months to perfect, but that wasn't the case for Sweet Caroline. Neil Diamond has said that he wrote this song in just 45 minutes or up to an hour. And when asked what was the inspiration, he said it was a magazine photo of Carolyn Kennedy, the daughter of late President John F. Kennedy, that sparked the idea for the lyric.
When she was 9.
However, he later revealed that the song wasn't actually about her. The name just fit perfectly with the melody. Regardless of its origins, Sweet Caroline has become a beloved anthem, played at almost everything from a wedding to a sporting event all over the world.
Really wish I didn't look it up.
Yeah, I think you're overdoing it. Like, he's not saying it in this, like, he essentially saying,
Touching you,
He-
touching
he-
me.
no. See, this is the problem, is he took the name. That's it. He's not thinking about a little child. I mean, come on. Let's, we are going to have an episode one of these days where we talk about all the innuendo gross songs of like the 70s and all.
Yes, there's tons of them.
There's a million of
Tons of them. I mean, what? She's 16, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that he kind of gets I understand what you're saying with this as far as the perception of it, but I think there's something a little bit more to it than just he's a pedophile writing about kids.
Didn't
So,
say all that. I just think it's gross. I did not say what you just said. I did that word did not even come into my head. I just thought that the idea of him looking at a little 9-year-old and being able to write that song within 45 minutes is kind of icky.
but he's saying that he just took the name. So when he saw the name Caroline, it fit with what he was already writing.
That's not what they said.
Yeah.
It's not. He was already writing it. Ew.
Okay, so we talked about that song, which everybody knows, right? Bum, bum, bum. Everybody knows the song. Then, Forever in Blue Jeans, one of my favorite songs.
Yes.
How about the song title of the movie? Song Sung Blue.
That
Great
was a song that I remember from a little kid. And yeah, just that's a great tune too.
Cracklin' Rosie, another great
Yes.
song. I Am, I Said. How about September Morn?
Yeah.
Another great song. How about Love on the Rocks? Jen, we could do this all day long. Now, did you know? Heartlight? No, we could do this all day long. The categories and the songs that you've written are amazing. Did you know that Neil Diamond has written and recorded 13 top 10 hits on Billboard's Hot 100, with 38 songs reaching the top 10 on adult contemporary charts? And he has 10 number one singles that he's written for other numerous artists, including I'm a Believer for the Monkees and Red, Red Wine for UB40, to name a few.
I did not
So-
know, but it does not surprise me whatsoever. He's a fantastic writer. It's just, he gives me the ick.
Now, when you talk about ick, he wrote for an artist that many people either consider one of the greatest singers of all time or a very icky individual, and that is Elvis Presley. He wrote the song And the Grass Won't Pay No Mind specifically for Elvis Presley back in 1969. Elvis also covered Sweet Caroline live in 1970. So even he acknowledged,
Yeah, and he also married Lisa Marie Presley when she was 15. So,
I mean, we're talking about ick, right?
yes. But, granted, it was a completely different time, but 15 and 9 years old are, okay. I'll let it go.
You'll let it go. There's a lot of ick factor in the world today when it comes especially to musicians, and we will go over that.
Yes. I think anywhere
should-
from the like, I don't know, from the 50s to the late 80s, even into the 90s, lots of ick. Lots and lots and lots of ick. Ringo Starr, you're 16, you're beautiful, and you're mine.
We could do this all day, but Jen, we're going to hold on that because this is something that we need to talk about.
Okay.
Now,
We need to talk about this.
We do.
We do. Okay.
We do.
We're going to
Because it's interesting. And that's the whole point of this podcast. Other than talking about hockey, we talk about things that are interesting to us.
You got it.
Now, you mentioned he was married 3 times.
Yep.
Unfortunately, Neil Diamond today is not in good health. He's dealing with, I believe it's Parkinson's disease, which is the same kind of thing that Michael J. Fox is dealing with.
Right, but he's 85. Michael J. Fox got his when he was in his 20s. So,
Okay. All right,
Different.
Good to know.
Just saying.
So we can acknowledge he's a great performer.
Yes.
We have spoken about the fact that he may have a little ick factor to his live performance that some may not find very appealing, but some find wonderful. It just
Ew.
depends on who you are. Before we end the Neil Diamond discussion, I just want to bring out 5 little facts about Neil Diamond that maybe some people didn't know.
Okay.
Just to maybe, why not as far as the type of person that Neil Diamond was, aside from the fact that he had probably some of the worst hair known to mankind. So, number one, Neil Diamond said that he actually once considered a career in medicine over performing. How about that?
That's interesting.
He had attended New York University on a fencing scholarship. Again, fencing, the little sword you. But his original plan with that scholarship was to go into medicine. He was pre-med when music took over his life. And then he decided to pursue music and songwriting instead of medicine. Because he mentioned that he would get so bored in class with the lectures going on that he would just write things like song lyrics and poems while he was in class.
I have to say, all I'm thinking of is what was he going to be, a gynecologist? Sorry, go ahead.
That's just in poor taste. Gen number 2, which we already alluded to, he wrote one of the biggest hits of all time in less than an hour, which was Sweet Caroline, which you tore apart thinking that he's writing about a 9-year-old. So we've already discussed that. Point number 3. Jen, did you know that he was a classmate with Barbra Streisand?
Okay.
So before they both became music legends, they were classmates. They both attended the Aramis Hall High School in Brooklyn, New York.
Didn't they do a
They
song
sang-
together?
They sang in the school choir together.
Okay.
Years later, their paths crossed again when they recorded the duet that you just mentioned, You Don't Bring Me Flowers,
Yep.
which became a massive hit.
He didn't say anything about his writing and all of that, his songs, top tier.
All right. Number 4 point, interesting Neil Diamond facts. Neil Diamond had one of the most expensive divorces ever recorded. Now, since then, there's been more, but check this out. Neil Diamond's divorce from his second wife, Marcia Murphy, became a high profile.
Marcia.
It's Marcia.
Marcia?
Yeah. His second wife, Marcia Murphy. Don't cut me off in the middle of my Neil
Yes,
Diamond.
Marcia.
No.
That's how you spell Marcia.
Marcia.
That's how you spell Marcia.
All right, so I stand corrected. So it's Marcia Murphy. It's not, see, it could be Marcia Murphy, but either way, he divorces his second wife and it became a high-profile, expensive affair. In their settlement, Neil Diamond was forced to pay $150 million, setting a record as the most expensive divorce in history at that time. So Marcia Murphy made out like a bandit with $150 million when she divorced. Okay? Interesting. Marcia, we'll leave that up to interpretation. The last final interesting fact about Neil Diamond is he wrote several of the Monkees' biggest hits. So you recall, for those of you who might be a little bit young, the Monkees were a TV show that spawned a band. And my wife is showing me that her name was really Marcia. So good job researching that, Jen, live on air and shaming me, just like you singing Neil Diamond. So moving on, Steve, because you know who wouldn't have done this? Hillary Knight would not have done this. So kudos to you.
Absolutely right, but you don't have to
You.
behind closed doors.
So the Monkees, for again, was a band or a TV show that spawned a band. The idea is the network wanted to come out with a Beatles kind of young hip band that they could put on TV. It was a comedy that they would then write and perform songs that would become hits. One of the biggest hits by the Monkees was I'm a Believer. A lot of people know that. It's been covered by a lot of people. And as we mentioned, that was written by Neil Diamond and then recorded by the Monkees in 1966, which became an instant hit for the Monkees. And then it even garnished some accolades for Neil Diamond as far as being a songwriter. It was the biggest selling hit of 1967. It wasn't Diamond's only contribution to the Monkees catalog either. They also recorded his songs later on, songs like Look Out, Here Comes Tomorrow, A Little Bit of Me, A Little Bit of You, and Love to Love. Now, the good thing is Neil Diamond always built it in that he could, redo these songs because he wrote them. So he kind of remade some of them. He did I'm a Believer. I'm a Believer is the big hit that everybody knows him for. And everyone thinks that the Monkees wrote that song. Well, no, Neil Diamond is the one who wrote that song. So, Jen, after all of this, we could summarize it by saying you think he's a gross performer in his antics, but he is an amazing songwriter and singer. Would you agree with that statement?
Yes. Yes, of course. I've already said that. Beating a dead horse here, dear.
Would you, if Neil Diamond was in his prime right now, go see him perform live?
Yeah, probably. He's fantastic. It's just he gives me the ick. I'm not gonna be running up to the front or anything. I enjoy his music. I don't even Is he still even performing? He's 85.
No, now with his disease and his health issues. Yeah, I think they said he stopped performing a number of years ago, and this is the reason why. Neil Diamond, I just want to let you know, I have your back when it comes to this. I feel as though during that time period, that antic happened all the time. And as long as the women are the ones who aren't being forced into any situation like that, they're doing so willingly because they're enamored with you, just like your Engelbert Humperdinks and all those crooners back in the Vegas people and the 70s rock gods that had women galore into the 80s where same thing kind of happened. A lot more things happened that we saw. 90s, not so much because everybody was depressed in the 90s for some reason. Just kind of stood there while songs were being played. And today I have no clue what's going on because I have no clue what you guys all call music nowadays. Pretty soon AI is going to figure out how to write songs like Neil Diamond, and then we're all in trouble because that's when AI takes over the world. So that's why right now my marriage to my lovely wife, Jen, is hanging in the balance because of the way she feels about an icon, and that's Neil Diamond.
Hey, it is what it is. He gives me the ick.
It is what it is.
That's it. And it is Marsha. Yep.
So if you enjoyed this episode of Hockey and Podcast, there may not be another one. This episode of Hockey and Podcast, you may want to look next week to see if we even have an episode, because maybe I have to, like Neil Diamond said, love on the rocks. Maybe time for my wife to go. And maybe after last week's solo episode, maybe, just saying. Either way.
Just imagine, this is what you guys all hear. Guess what he gets when we're not on the air?
Yes. You should hear the intelligent things that come in our household
Vice versa.
on a regular basis.
Vice versa. Good for the goose, good for the gander.
You can check out our episode wherever you find podcasts on such platforms as Spotify and Apple. We're also on YouTube where you won't see our pretty faces, but you'll see the words that we speak, the stupid words, the intelligent words, the inspiring words, and the critical, I guess you could call it, correctivism of some of us on this podcast. But either way, you can find it there. And as always, if you like what you hear, give us a follow, give us a subscribe, share with your friends. Tell your friends there's a podcast out there where a husband and wife are going to get separated over their disagreement on such things as Neil Diamond.
Goodness.
All right, Jen, that's the end of our episode. The Bruins are on, and as you know, we stop recording when the Bruins are on because we love the Bruins. That's probably going to be the only thing that keeps us together. So, without any further ado, let's say goodbye to the people.
Yes. Hey, y'all, this whole week, it's going to be above 50 degrees. Everybody have a good week. Be safe. And that's about all I got. Back to you, dear.
I'm going to end it with this. You ready?
Yeah.
Sweet Caroline. Well, you can't even do that on time. All right, people. We'll see you next week.